The use of these weapons has to be responded to, and only the United States has the capability and the capacity to stop Assad and to warn others around the world that this type of behavior is not going to be tolerated.
President Obama did not draw the red line. Humanity drew it decades ago, 170-some countries supporting the Convention on not using chemical warfare.
We want to work to make that resolution something that a majority of the members of both houses can support. A rejection of that, a vote against that resolution by Congress, I think would be catastrophic because it would undermine the credibility of the United States of America and the President of the United States. None of us want that.
If we don't get Syria right, Iran's surely going to take the signals that we don't care about the nuclear program, and it weighs on the President's mind strongly about the signals we send.
I believe that the American people need to hear more about the intelligence that supports this action, and that is that the responsibility for this chemical weapons use is clearly at the feet of Assad.
This is something that the United States as a country needs to do. I'm going to support the President's call for action. I believe that my colleagues should support this call for action.
I find myself agreeing with John Boehner. John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, all sounding off. You just heard there on Syria. And here in our set, we turn to our own enforcement to the same question. Richard Brodsky has already made up his mind, former New York State Assemblyman, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU. Dominic Carter, political journalist, author. Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist and former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. And Andrew Whitman, who you've already met. You obviously don't see it the same way I do. You don't see that there's been a vacillation by this president to where we are. You think it's perfectly fine that we're going to be talking about this for the next week.
Who won the presidency by explaining to the American people what was wrong with Iraq, not just in terms of what was wrong with it itself, but the way we went about it. The president lied to the Congress. The Congress didn't do its job. He's setting up a bar for future presidents that says when you're going to commit American military forces without an imminent threat to the security of the United States, and no one says this is an imminent threat, you better have the political institutions of a democracy and the people behind you. That requires time and persuasion. He's preventing future misadventures as much as he's developing a constituency for his program in the United States.
If the British Parliament gave the go-ahead to David Cameron, would we be in Congress this week?
I would certainly hope so. And
that's not my question.
Yes.
Oh, please.
Okay. You ask me my opinion. I give you an answer, and you give me an oh, please. This is about more than Syria. This is about the way America commits itself to military action. He's doing the right thing, and everybody should make up your mind. You can oppose him on the intervention, but you can't criticize him.
No, I don't oppose or support. If he decided Syria wasn't our fight and tactical strikes weren't in America's best interest from jump, I would have been okay. But my problem is he did everything to say that this was a red line that could not be crossed. He was going to take definitive action. Everybody believed, including elected officials, including Charlie Rangel, have a vote. Right. It was when, not if. All of a sudden, the headwinds got difficult because he couldn't get off the dime here, and that's why
he believed all those things, and in a democracy, you get congressional permission. That's the way. If the Congress had done its job, we wouldn't be in Iraq.
Did Bill Clinton screw up when he went to Bosnia without getting all the green lights that he needed?
Did Ronald Reagan screw up when he struck Libya?
Okay.
And Gaddafi?
The answer is yes. In terms of the precedent he set, whether or not you like the intervention. Did George Bush screw up when he lied to the Congress about Iraq?
Well, he didn't lie.
Certainly did.
But we're not going to refight that one. Nobody
debates. We can't refight that one?
Time out. There is Iraq fatigue. You and I have no daylight on the Iraq issue. However, The president made it clear, unless you think the president's lying, that there was not going to be one set of boots on the ground here, Dominic. This was going to be limited to strikes from the beginning. He made a point he didn't want regime change here. He went through all of that. We weren't obviously going to be targeting the chemical weapons for obvious reasons. So even with all those caveats, even with stating all that, we now find ourselves where Congress, the very elected body he can't go 10 minutes without rightfully bashing, he's now asking for permission, even the War Powers Act say he doesn't have to. I think even if he gets his way, and it looks like tonight he will, he misplayed this. And I think future presidents will pay a price.
I think it was a brilliant move by the president, and politically, because he boxed Congress in. What he essentially said to Congress, Richard, was put up or shut up.
I'll let you finish. But Dominic, was that his original strategy a week ago, that he was going to box Congress in?
No.
Or did he all of a sudden get cold feet once the public polls?
Okay, but it doesn't matter if he got cold feet. He didn't have the international support. He didn't have Great Britain. So you can't have, let me just finish, you can't have Republican members of Congress on the first day demanding military action, and by the third day they're backing off. So what this president, who, by the way, you have to remember how he was elected. His, as Richard pointed out, his opposition to the war in Iraq catapulted him to the top, Richard, to the top of the Democratic field.
Nobody
of course,
pushed him to do
voting
this.
for the
He's
war in
one-
Iraq cost Hillary Clinton the presidency.
Is it John Boehner? I'm a perverse situation here tonight. Was it Boehner? Was it Cantor? Was it McConnell who talked about a red line? It was this president. Nobody put himself in the box. He created the box. He created the standard. You can't blame Republicans on
that
this.
you don't get congressional permission
He
to
never
punish it.
intended to.
You don't know what.
Credibility.
You don't know
His
what he
credibility
intended.
is at stake at this particular moment. He got it right this time. He should have thought about that before he came up with the red line. He should have said, maybe I should go and seek Congress approval. At the end of the day, what are we to expect now from the president? He says, oh, well, look, it will be limited strikes. Okay, will it be? What else will be our intervention? Will we have boots on the ground? Will we help the opposition in the Civil War? I mean, where is this going to take us? How can we believe the president at this point in time in terms of what he's going to do?
I think that are legitimate, Andrew. First of all, if Congress votes no, will he go ahead anyway? He's certainly reserved the right. What if we do tactical strikes, assuming they give approval, and he uses chemical weapons again? Are we going to limit it again to tactical strikes? Does it get broader than that? They've promised no boots on the ground. Can they maintain that? And the biggest question of all, and I think we can all agree on this, it's not about Syria today, it's about Iran. And how does Iran perceive the actions of the last 2 weeks? And they read symbols, they read movement, and they certainly can read, I believe, the president. I know you guys would disagree with me, that at the end of the day, he wasn't fully committed to this. He doesn't really believe that there's clear beginnings and ends to these conflicts.
If the actions that the United States takes results in changes to the scenario that require changes in our operations, if Assad uses chemical weapons again, or if this leads to a deterioration in things with Iran, we can take additional action, and I think the president will go back to Congress and try to seek that. I don't think the president loses anything by seeking congressional approval here. The red line still exists. He still reserves the right under the War Powers Act to act unilaterally.
Time out. Wait a minute. No, wait a minute, Andrew. Let's say they don't give him the approval, and he goes ahead and he independently attacks anyway. What kind of a message is that? I want to get congressional buy-in, but if I don't get it, I'm going to do it my way anyway.
I still have the authority under the War Powers Act
then
to
why
act.
go through the pretense?
Because it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't really
It's
matter.
the worst thing to do.
And also, it, as Dominic points out, it puts Republicans in a box. It helps him in other areas too.
Richard, it's a brilliant move.
It is.
It gives him political cover. The Republicans can't talk out of
But
both
look what
sides
you're
of their
talking about.
mouth.
You look what you're talking about. You're talking about political cover, and I believe you're right. But I'm sorry, and I sound Pollyannish on this. There are times when a president is a commander-in-chief, and he isn't always looking for political
cover.
cover.
Law. The law in the United States is when you commit American military without an imminent threat to the United States, you need the permission of Congress.
Without getting into a legal debate here, you don't believe the War Powers Act grants him the the authority to act without congressional approval?
Not without an imminent threat, and no one's making that case.
Now, Richard, the one area I do agree with you, his presidency may be riding on this as a lame duck, and he is certainly going to tie the hands of future presidents when it comes to possible military action.
That tying of hands is what his overarching strategic vision is. You could look this way. You don't have to look.
No, I'm reading the graphic. They didn't see it. There's a graphic on the Airwise guy. Go ahead.
His overriding goal is to make sure we don't get more cowboy presidents jamming us into military situations we shouldn't be
So I'm sorry.
without the support of the
actions
American
he's
people.
taking or not taking is he's determining the future president's behavior.
Yeah.
Look,
Oh my God!
look, we
You're
gotta-
giving him
look,
ridiculous
you got,
amounts
you
of
got it
credit.
all. We got it all wrong here. The president has to tell us
Andrew,
what
take
the
notes here.
clear-cut goal. That's right, clear-cut goal is. Okay. I mean, look, is it one strike? Now, what if there are other chemical weapons used? Then what? What about Hezbollah and Hamas? What about Israel in the Middle East? There are a lot of factors. I hope we get that, but there are a lot of factors that could come to play that will hurt the stability in the Middle East. And I think
so
we've got to have a
case
clear
for intervention.
look. But
Answer the
it's-
question. Yes or no?
I agree with the president going to Congress.
Come on,
absolutely. I
Do you
absolutely
think
agree with
it's
that.
right to the Canes of the world, the Boehners of the world, that they get to sit around talking out of both sides of their mouth?
But they support the president on this.
Now they do, because the president forced their
I am concerned
hand.
about the president's credibility and continuing. Look,
So
at
he
the
did
end of
the
the day,
right
what needs to
thing.
happen.
He did the right
if,
thing,
if
but
he
it
is
has
going
a
to
bad
order strikes, then
consequence.
he's got to give support to the opposition
All right.
and take out Assad.
As we
That's
debate
what has to
the
happen.
politics of the political coverage,
do it
as Dominic
quickly.
said of this, there is still the fact of the matter. If there are attacks, and if you read the tea leaves of today, it looks like there will be. What about some of the consequences, some of the open-ended questions? When we come back, we'll talk about this from a military perspective with our guests. Please stay with us.